sound of rain hammering tarmac, wind, a zipper struggling open with cold, stiff fingers. You're 340 kilometers from home. It's dark, the rain started an hour ago and it hasn't decided to stop. Your jacket is soaked through because the waterproof liner is sitting, neatly folded, on your bedroom floor at home. Your phone is at 11%. The charger is in the bag you decided was too heavy to bring. And somewhere between the frustration and the cold, a thought arrives with absolute clarity. I should have packed differently. Every rider who has ever done a long tour has lived some version of that moment. The good news is, it only has to happen once. The better news is that after this video, it doesn't have to happen to you at all. Rain fades. Engine starts. Road opens up ahead. This isn't a list of things to throw in a bag. This is everything experienced tourers learned the hard way. The packing mistakes that cut trips short, the gear decisions that saved them, and the mental shifts that turned difficult days into the ones they still talk about years later. Stay with this. The part about mental fatigue alone is worth the whole video. Welcome back to RIDERPRO. Day riding and touring are two different languages. Day riding is a conversation. Touring is a novel, longer, deeper, with chapters that don't always go the way you planned. And like any long journey, the difference between an experience that breaks you down and one that builds you up comes down almost entirely to preparation. Not just the physical preparation of what you carry, but the mental preparation of understanding what touring actually demands from a rider, because the road will test you. Not always in dramatic ways. Sometimes it's just 8 hours of straight highway with nowhere interesting to stop, and your lower back making a case for early retirement. Preparation is what keeps you riding when the road stops being romantic and starts being real. The most common packing mistake isn't forgetting something. It's packing too much of the wrong things and too little of the right ones. Riders load up for every possible scenario and arrive at camp, too exhausted to enjoy it, because half the weight on the bike wasn't necessary for the actual trip they took. Weight distribution matters more than total weight. A bag sitting high and far back on the bike changes its handling in ways that only reveal themselves at speed, in crosswinds, or when you need to brake hard. The moment you feel the rear end respond differently than expected on an unfamiliar road is the moment you understand why. Balance matters more than capacity. The second mistake is packing clothes as though you're checking into a hotel. Touring clothing needs to earn its space. Each item should serve at least two purposes. One riding layer that doubles as a warm layer at camp. One piece of weatherproof gear that actually works rather than 4 pieces that partially work. The riders who pack light don't pack less, they pack smarter. Think of your packing in 3 categories and never let them bleed into each other. The first is survival and your rain gear. Your first aid kit, your tools, your phone charger, your emergency cash. These go in the most accessible place on the bike because when you need them, conditions are rarely ideal for digging through a fully loaded top box. The second category is daily use, the jacket liner, the snacks, the map, the sunglasses, things you reach for without stopping. The third is everything else, spare clothing, campsite gear, the items that only come out when you've stopped for the night. That third category is where most riders overpack, and where the honest question has to be asked, if you haven't touched it in 2 days of riding, did it need to come at all? Tools deserve their own conversation. A compact kit, tire plugs, a small pump, basic spanners, zip ties, duct tape has ended more potential trip-ending situations than any roadside assistance plan. The riders who carry it rarely need it. The riders who leave it behind always wish they hadn't. Weather is not an obstacle, it's a variable. The riders who treat it as an enemy spend their trips miserable. The riders who build it into their planning, checking forecasts the night before, keeping waterproofs within reach, accepting that some days will be wet and riding through them. Anyway, those riders have better trips. Fatigue is the danger nobody talks about honestly. The point where riding stops being active and starts being automatic is the point where accidents happen. The 2-hour rule exists for a reason. Stop before you feel tired, not after. Eat before you're hungry. Drink water before thirst arrives. These sound obvious until hour 6 of a day, when the scenery was beautiful enough to make you forget all 3. Navigation has changed entirely with modern phone mounts and offline maps. But technology fails. Download your route before you leave signal range. Know the next major town, the next fuel stop, the next decision point. A basic awareness of your route protects you when the screen goes blank. Here is what nobody writes in the packing guides. Long touring is mentally harder than physically hard. The physical stuff, then the soreness, the fatigue, the cold, your body adapts to all of that faster than you expect. What catches riders off guard is the mental weight of constant decision-making. Every junction, every weather change, every unexpected road closure is a small decision that compounds over hours into genuine cognitive fatigue. The antidote isn't planning every detail in advance. It's building tolerance for map-suggested uncertainty, accepting that some days will not go to plan and training yourself to find something worth appreciating in the deviation. The rider who can genuinely enjoy an unexpected detour rather than resent. It is the rider who has the best tours, not because their trips are easier, but because their relationship with difficulty is different. It started as a 2-day loop. Leave Friday evening, ride through Saturday, come home Sunday. Simple, manageable, the kind of trip that fits in a small bag and doesn't require much planning. By Saturday afternoon, the route had changed twice because of roadworks, and one section that turned out to be more interesting than the lunch stop became a 3-hour conversation with a retired rider who had toured 40 countries on a bike older than most people watching this video. The campsite that was fully booked led to a field with permission that had a view that no campsite could have matched. The bag that seemed too small on Friday night turned out to have everything that actually mattered. And the things left behind, the extra jacket, the second pair of boots, the portable speaker, were never missed once. That trip had nothing to do with perfect preparation. It had everything to do with being prepared enough to stay flexible. That is the real skill of touring. Experienced tourers never fill their tank to brim at the start of a long day. A full tank is heavy and affects handling in the first hour before it burns down. They fuel after the first 50 kilometers when the bike feels settled, and they have a sense of the day ahead. They always carry a physical copy of their insurance and breakdown cover documents. Not on their phone, on paper in a waterproof sleeve in the same place every single trip. Because a drained battery and a breakdown in an unfamiliar country is not the moment to be searching through email folders. They also know that the best touring decision they ever made was building a rest day into every multi-day trip. Not a rest day to recover from fatigue, a rest day to simply be somewhere, rather than pass through it. The towns you remember from touring are never the ones you rode through quickly. There's a version of motorcycle touring that looks like the photographs. Golden light, empty roads, a loaded bike parked at the edge of something vast and beautiful. That version exists. You will find it. But the version that changes you is different. It's the cold morning when you chose to keep riding anyway, the wrong turn that led somewhere better. The evening where everything went sideways and you figured it out because you had packed the right things, thought the right way, and trusted yourself enough to keep going. Touring doesn't reward the rider who prepares for perfection. It rewards the rider who prepares for reality, and then shows up anyway, bag packed honestly, mind open completely, and throttle pointed toward whatever comes next. That rider always comes home with something worth carrying. So here's the question I want you to sit with. Think about the best ride you've ever done. The one that surprised you, challenged you, or changed something in how you think about riding altogether. Was it the trip that went perfectly to plan, or the one that didn't? Tell me in the comments. And if you're planning your first tour or your next one, subscribe to RIDERPRO, because the next video in this series covers the exact gear setup that experienced tourers actually use, not what the magazines recommend. That one is coming soon and you will not want to miss it. Disclaimer: this script is produced for informational and entertainment purposes only. Riding tips, packing advice, and touring scenarios are based on general rider experience, community knowledge, and creative storytelling. Always follow your local road laws, ride within your skill level, and consult professional guidance for safety-critical equipment decisions. RIDERPRO holds no liability for decisions made based on content in this video.